Hello from the campus of Butler University. I'm Jerry Toomer, co-author of The Catalyst Effect. With me here today is Shane Battier. You may know Shane. He was the College Player of the Year when he was at Duke, and he was a noted NBA player with the Memphis Grizzlies, the Houston Rockets, and the Miami Heat. He's a two-time NBA champ. And while with the Rockets, he became known as, quotes, the no-stats all-star, the guy who made players and teams better when he was on the court. Shane, thanks so much for being with us today.
Jerry, thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. Let's start off just by kind of centering on what are you up to today with the Heat? What's your role?
I'm currently the Vice President of Basketball Development and Analytics for the Miami Heat, and I'm utilizing technology to try to win a few more games and help our organization run more efficiently.
Shane, you were a key part of the inspiration for our book, and I think you're aware of that. We had the opportunity to have lunch a couple of years ago down in Miami, and this idea of being somebody who elevates the performance of your teammates and elevates the performance of your team is one that really sparked a lot of the content in the book and the ideas. Could you talk a little bit about how you feel about that, how you see that kind of being the no-stats all-star?
Well, it's probably the best compliment that I ever received about my career. But I sort of laugh when I hear that because my only goal when I started playing basketball was to help my team win games. And I learned at an early age that when I was a part of my team's success, people valued me, people wanted me around, people wanted me on their team. And so for me, it was a matter of social survival that my team just had to play well and they had to win. And I would do anything it took to help my team perform at their highest level. And so I was super lucky to be recognized by Michael Lewis in his New York Times magazine, in the Sunday magazine, being called the No-Stat All-Star. And so it's a great compliment, but it really is just a byproduct of what my entire career has been based off of.
Fantastic. When you think about people that you've played with and who you see as no-stats all-stars, somebody else besides you, and you think of certain people that when they step into the conference room with you now at the Heat or they step onto the floor, who comes to mind that you know who raises your performance and the performance of others on the court or in the room?
I'm really lucky to work for a great organization with multiple leaders. I think that Eric Spoelstra does an amazing job of being self-critical, of being open-minded, and always thinking about how can our group play better? How can we as a group function more efficiently? How can we talk better? And it's really, really fun to work with someone who views not only basketball but life that way. And I get inspired. It makes me want to work harder to find ways that I can help the team more and help him help the team even more. So it's a neat working relationship.
That's terrific, and it sounds like there's an energy with your team that really kind of feeds on itself. One of the things that we did in our research for the book when we interviewed over 80 people was to kind of be behavioral psychologists, if you will. So if Eric walked in the room, what would he do, as specifically as you can describe it? What does he do? What does he say? How does he carry himself? What does he do behaviorally that kind of brings that energy to the room?
Well, when a great leader walks into the room, there's an openness. There are people who are closed off just with their body language. Their shoulders may be slumped over. They may be looking down at the floor. They may be buried in their iPhone. But a great leader like Spo walks into the room, shoulders back, open, looking people in the eye. And just non-verbally, you communicate that I'm open and I'm here to help. And people feed off that instantaneously, and it's a subtle thing that people who get it do, but it makes a huge difference.
Do you believe those skills that Eric's demonstrates and that you certainly demonstrated on the court and in the locker room, do you think that they're trainable?
I definitely think that awareness for being a catalyst is totally trainable and totally learnable if you pay attention to the small cues. And just in our conversations through your book and whatnot, I wasn't even aware of half the things that we talked about until I really thought about it. But after being aware of the subtle clues that you can make people, subtle ways you can make people better, you start to key in and you start to look at yourself more critically and say, do I have good body language? Do I look people in the eye? Do I present a good energy? And the trick is to get the ball rolling and get that first experience. But once you do, every day I look at ways that how do I communicate better? How do I present better? How do I bring more energy? And it's 100% a teachable skill.
Yeah, thanks for that. And honestly, Shane, probably the nicest compliment that I received on the book and the work was from you when you described the book as capturing kind of what you do naturally and being able to describe it. And so with that, we've established 4 cornerstones and 12 competencies, and they do cover some of the things that you just mentioned. First and foremost, being able to walk in the room and establish trust and credibility. In the book, we use Ron Norad, a Butler player and now coach in the NBA, as an example of being in the gym at 6 in the morning in a cold gym and always being reliable. It's that kind of fundamental trust and credibility that somebody brings in that's really a key foundation.
It is. I've always said people are very, very good at seeing who is sort of a false figure, who's a fraud. People may not have the solutions to every problem, but they know if someone comes with a plan that's half baked, they know that, hey, that plan's not going to work. And so you have to show up, and you have to be about the right things, and that will allow you to help implement your plan and help bring a team together.
Fantastic. So let me take you back a bit to Game 7 in the finals in 2013. You probably remember that game really well.
Slightly, a little bit.
So you wanted to be in the court, you wanted the ball. Could you talk a bit about your mindset at that point?
I'm very proud of our team's performance in 2013 Game 7. And personally, I was really proud of my performance given the circumstances. The games leading up to Game 7, I was horrible. I was like the worst. I went through the worst shooting slump I'd ever gone through my entire career. At one point in the playoffs, I was, I think, 4 for 28 from the three-point line. I was embarrassed. I thought I was letting my team down. I was letting my coaches down. And I thought I was letting myself down. And self-doubt started to creep in. I thought, hey, is this it? Is my career over? Do I have to find a new job? Can I shoot the ball anymore? But I relied on what I've been my entire career, and whatever the team needed me to do, I needed to be ready to produce and play as hard as I can. And sometimes you just can't control makes and misses. And if you try to control them, you miss even more. So I just wanted to be ready and, given the opportunity, make the most of it. And basketball is a funny game. When you start to make a couple shots, the self-belief grows, and you say, you know what? Tonight's my night. And it just happened to be in the biggest game of my entire career that I made my first 5 three-pointers and ended the game 6 for 8 from the three-point line, and we win an NBA championship. And so it's a great story. You know, most people will just remember that game. They won't remember how bad I was leading up to that game. But again, it goes back to being a great teammate and doing what it takes to help the team perform at its best.
Yeah, well, bad is a relative term from my perspective, but even though I'm a Pacers fan, I watched with great interest and with admiration and with a lot of, a lot of satisfaction that you were able to step on and have that kind of game to put them over the top. That was really very, very special. Let's talk about the Butler Bulldogs. Coach Jordan now is our fourth coach in 6 years. And we've continued to have success. Most people would say that that amount of coaching turmoil would create some challenges. Your perspective on that?
I've known Coach Jordan for a long time. We battled in high school in the state championship many, many years ago, and he was a tough player back then. He's a tough coach now. You know, I was lucky to go to a place like Duke University, and what makes Duke a special place, not only play basketball but go to school, is tradition and standards, and I think that's what Butler has established over the last few years, that there's an expectation when you walk through the doors of Butler, just like at Duke, you carry yourself a certain way. The work expectation is at a certain level. Your commitment level is at a certain level, and if that level is high, you're gonna create tradition, and a winning tradition. And so when I talk to young players, you know, people are fascinated, mesmerized by the history of Duke, but I tell people, look, this is just a continuation of the lessons that guys like Steve Wojciechowski and Trajan Langdon and Rashawn McLeod taught me, that I tried to pass on to guys like Mike Dunleavy and Jason Williams and Carlos Boozer. And when you get that cycle over and over again, you can go on a pretty good run.
Yeah, you guys have had a great run. There is a move a bit in college ball for 1 or 2 years and done, and then on to the NBA. So you've got a little bit of a different model that's kind of emerged for some college teams over the last few years. How do you view that?
It's just the state of the game right now, and I understand all arguments. You know, I do feel for coaches who try to cram 4 years of not only basketball lessons but life lessons in a much shorter time frame. And you know, I was blessed to go to 4 years of college, and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to go to my fifth year. But it's just the landscape of basketball right now. But that is that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and we're creating great opportunities for young kids and players, and for student athletes as well. You know, as you know, I'm a bit older than you are, and I'm delighted to be back on Butler's campus, not only to enjoy Butler University and everything it has to offer, but to also be able to follow the Bulldogs and get to know Coach Jordan as well. So let's shift a little bit. I know you and Heidi have been very active in the community, and certainly very active in setting up your foundation, Take Charge Foundation. Could you talk a bit about the goals of the foundation?
My wife Heidi and I, along with our executive director Newell Fleming, we're very proud of the work that we've done with the Take Charge Foundation. I was lucky and I was blessed to be 6'8" and somewhat talented in the game of basketball, and that unlocked an amazing amount of doors for me. But if I didn't have basketball, my parents didn't have the means to send me where maybe I wanted to go to school and have all the opportunities that basketball afforded me. So I was aware of that, and I knew I was so blessed. And I said, you know what, if I ever make it to the big time and reach my goals and my dreams, which I did, it's my responsibility to go back and help the talented, driven kids out there who just need a little opportunity. And that's what our main focus is to create opportunities through education, especially in our underserved areas. And the Battier Take Charge Foundation has been around for 8 years now. We were formed in 2010, and in that time we have raised over $2 million for college scholarships, and given away almost $1 million in scholarships. And we've impacted kids from around the country, mostly in Michigan and in Houston and in Miami. But we try to live by our credo, do well, do good. And so we worked really hard and have reached our goals professionally. Now it's time to do good, give back, and create opportunities for others.
Fantastic. I was on your site recently, and it was a real delight to see the pictures of the kids and their comments about the impact that you're having on their lives.
This is why we work hard. This is why we work hard. And It is work, running a foundation, but it is the best kind of work, knowing that you have a direct impact on young people's lives. And we feel lucky to be part of our kids' journey early on. They're going to do great things, and all of our kids, we are very lucky to say, you know what, we knew them at the beginning, because they are going to change the world.
Fantastic. Continuing with that theme of talking about young adults, about kids, and I'm going to smile when I say this because I have a working title for a project, and the title is Yikes. And so my personal experience when I was about 35, when my kids were 8 and 12 years old, parents get that call from the league coordinator, from the soccer league or the baseball league, and it's like, we need you to coach. And you say, well, no, I don't have time to coach. And then they call back 2 days later and they say, no, we need you to coach. If you don't coach, we're not going to have a team. And so parents and adults who have kids are put in these situations of being asked to coach these young kids, ages 5, 6, 10, 12. So I don't know if you've had that experience or not, but I'd be interested, if you have, maybe to describe it, but also to give some advice to those parents who are asked to coach and have basically little or no experience on the soft side of teaching these kids how to be great teammates. Your thoughts on that, Shane?
I was lucky to play for the greatest coach I've ever played for when I was in first grade. That's Coach Ed Battier, the best coach in my entire life. And it wasn't because he taught us how to hit a curveball or how to get open as a tight end going out for a pass, or how to tackle somebody with perfect technique. No, none of that. He was the best coach I played for because he talked about what made a great teammate. He talked about hustle. He talked about being a good sport. He talked about supporting your teammates, about always doing your best. And those were the lessons that I carried with me to the last day I played in the NBA with the Miami Heat. And so I had the great opportunity to coach my son Zeke in baseball for 1 year. And those are the same lessons that I tried to instill in his teammates and my son, because I think that's the most important thing a kid can get out of sports early on. It's not the success, it's not the winning games, it's how do you become a great teammate? How do you develop discipline? How do you develop a work ethic? And for parents who may be a little unsure of their skills, that's okay. Control the things that you can control. You can control your energy. You can always show up enthusiastic and passionate about your team. You can teach hustle. You can teach good sportsmanship. You can teach always trying your best, about moving on to the next play when you have adversity. And that has nothing to do with technique. That has nothing to do with schemes. That's just common sense coaching. And so that's, I would argue, that's the most important part of coaching, especially in the youth levels.
Absolutely. You can find a lot of material out there about the X's and O's or the drills that you can do. But what you just commented on in terms of teamwork and quality and bringing optimism, I think is critical and outweighs the technical skills for kids at that age.
Exactly. Control what you can control.
Shane, in a couple months, the Heat are up in Indianapolis playing the Pacers. And I don't know if you're going to be here for that game or not, but I've been doing a little checking on your stats. And you were a high 70%, kind of 75, 78% free throw shooter over your NBA career. And I'm an old guy, but I'm not too bad. So I'm thinking if you come up, we'll get the practice gym at Hinkle, and we'll go one-on-one with some free throws, right? If you're up for that. And then we'll go have a beer at Scotty's, and we'll both contribute $1,000 to the Take Charge Foundation. How about that?
I'd like that. You're taking advantage of an old retired basketball player. I don't play much basketball these days, so I think you're taking advantage of me. But for the Take Charge Foundation, anything, Jerry. I like that plan.
That would be great. Are you serious? Do you play no pickup ball anymore? Are you pretty much off the gym?
The last time I played a game and ran up and down the court was 2014 NBA Finals Game 5. We lost to the San Antonio Spurs, and that was the last, when I took off that jersey, that's the last time I put one on. I'm a golfer now. I'm a golfer, and golf has my entire focus and passion, and you know, I had an amazing run, and I accomplished everything I ever wanted in basketball. And so I wanted a new challenge, and golf is a challenge.
Golf is certainly a new challenge, and I wish you well. If it's anything, it's a mental game, right?
Yes, that's why I love it.
Shane, from my standpoint, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy heat schedule to be with us this morning. We covered a lot of territory from your work with your dad from when you were a kid, to Duke, to the Rockets and the Heat and your current role, and I just so much appreciate your sharing your views of what it's like to be a no-sats all-star and what it's like to elevate the performance of those around you and your teammates, because you've been a great example of that for so many people across the country. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. Great talk.
Take care.